all His own. More of His kingdom to increase, more of His coming Prince of Peace, more about Jesus, more about Jesus, more of His saving blessing, more of His love who died for me. 5:25. 5:25, still waiting for choristers to finish their meeting and join. Oh, safe to the rock that is higher than I, my soul in its conflict and so grows flat, so sinful, so weary than I would I be. Oh, rock of ages, I'm hiding in thee, hiding in thee, hiding in thee. The vast rock of ages, I'm hiding in thee. In the calm of the noontide, in sorrow up, in times when temptations cast away its calm, in the tempest of life on its wide waving sea, thou best of all ages, I'm hiding in thee, hiding in thee, hiding in thee. Thou blessed rock of ages, I'm hiding in thee. How oft in the conflict when pressed by the foe, how fled to my refuge and fled out my woe. How oft when trials like sea billows flow, how hiding thee out of rock of my soul, hiding in thee, hiding in thee. Thou rest of ages, I'm hiding in thee. 367, as we wait for the choices now, as we are going to pick the choices after this. Choristers, please finish. 367. Sing. Rescue the perishing, care for the dying, snatch them in pity from sin and the grave. Weep for the erring one, lift up the fallen, tell them of Jesus the mighty to save. Rescue the perishing, care for the dying. Jesus is merciful, Jesus is same. Though they are slighting him, still he is waiting, waiting the penitent child to receive him. Plead with them honestly, plead with them gently. He will forgive if they only believe. Rescue the perishing, care for the dying. Jesus merciful. Jesus is saved. Rescue the perishing, duty demands it. Strength for the labor, the Lord will provide. Back to the narrow way, patiently will them tell the poor one, our Savior has died. Rescue the perishing, care for the dying. Jesus is merciful. Jesus will save. Choice from this side. 361. Sing. Hark till the shepherd's voice I hear, out in the desert dark and drear, calling the sheep gone astray, far from the shepherd's fold away. Bring them in, bring them in, bring them in from the field of sin. Bring them in, bring them in, bring the wanderers to Jesus. Hold help the shepherd kind, help him the wandering one to find. Who'll bring them back into the fold, where there'll be shelter from the cold. Bring them in, bring them in, bring them in from the field of sin. Bring them in, bring them in, bring the wanderers to Jesus. Out in the desert hear the cry, out on the mountain wide and high. Hark till the Master speaks to thee, go find my sheep where they be. Bring them in, bring them in, bring them from the fields of sin. Bring them in, bring them in, bring the wanderers to Jesus. Another choice from this side. Welcome team. Waiting for another chorister to join. Another choice from this side. Yes. Pardon? Kiswahili choice. Number? 880. Kiswahili. She's requesting Kiswahili number 80. I don't know whether you can find it and we project. Tupe moto wa uhai. Kiswahili number 80. B flat. Sing. Tupe moto wa uhai uliowaka zamani, uliowaongozaji wazee watakatifu. Wapi roho ndugu Paulo aliwezeshwa na moto. Neema yako haina nguvu siku hizi sawa, kama wakati wa Musa, Ayubu na wa Elia. Zamani za kale Bwana, rehema ziuishe roho zetu kwa Roho Mtakatifu. A choice. Voicing hand. Yes. 218. Number 218 is the hymnal. Let's sing. Sing. When he cometh to make up his jewels, all his jewels, precious jewels, his love and his own. Like the stars of the morning, his bright crown adorning, precious shining the beauty, bright gems for his crown. He will gather gems for his kingdom, all the pure ones, all the bright ones, his love and his own. Like the stars of the morning, his bright crown adorning, they shall shine in their beauty, bright gems for his bride. Is it too high? It's okay. Okay, let's do number 3. Sing. Little children, and thy jewels, precious jewels, his love and his own. Like the stars of the morning, his bright crown adorning, they shall join in their beauty, precious for his bride. Okay, let's sing 538. Guide me, O the great Jehovah, be his barracks. 538. Okay, just a moment. Yeah, I think the projection team is working on something else, so we can just use our own hymnals. Get your hymnals and let's sing. Yeah, don't depend on the screen. There's something they are doing. Guide me, oh, and let's sing, yeah, joyfully and powerfully, yeah. Okay, let's pianist. Sing, guide me, oh, the let's turn to song number 601. 601. Sing. Watchmen on the walls of Zion, what are the last of the night? Is the day star now arising? The sight, for your vision shine them now some rays of light. For your vision shine there now some rays of light. Okay, actually, that pose is not usually there. So that inafaa tu tuimbe, oh your vision shine there now some rays of light, also the second time. Number 2, tell Mike, could you light by a semitone? Sing. Tell us how the landmarks on the voyage all was found. How many rain, how the heaven is grown. Who will truly see the ending of time? We truly see the ending kingdom now. Light is beaming, day is coming. Let us sound aloud the truth. We have found the church and right beyond the sky. Saints be joyful, your redemption draweth nigh. Saints be joyful, your redemption draweth nigh. We have found the church and compass, and the sure land is near. Onward, we are hasting, till we have will appear. Let your voices sound aloud your holy cheer. Let your voices sound aloud your holy cheer. Thank you. We invite the
I thought you were going. We'll officially open our session. We'll start with song, then we'll before the speaker will pray. We'll stand up with song number 329. 329. Take the name, take the world, but give me Jesus. Take the world, but give me Jesus.
Take the world, but give me Jesus. All his joy are but a name, but his love abideth ever through eternal. He's the same. Oh, the light and depth of mercy, oh, the length and breadth of love. Oh, the fullness of redemption, pledge of endless life above. Take the world, but give me Jesus, sweetest comfort of my soul. With my Savior watching for me, I can sing through billows low. Oh, the
bread of endless life above. Take the world, but give me Jesus. Let me be His constant smile. Then throughout my pilgrim journey, life will cheer me all the while. Oh, the heart and depth of mercy, oh, the length and breadth of love, oh, the fullness of redemption, pledge of endless life above. Take the world, but give me Jesus. With His joy, my trust shall be, till we'll cheer a brighter vision, face to face, my Lord, I see. Oh, the heart and faith of mercy, oh, the length and breadth of love, oh, the fullness of redemption, pledge of endless life above. Let's sum ourselves for a word of prayer. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, we thank you for leading us through. Father, as we now welcome speaker for the evening session, be with us, help us understand and help us implement. In Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen. How many together with me welcome Prof to speak to us this evening? Welcome, Prof.
I'm using this. I'm using that, so it's okay. Good afternoon. God is good. I hope you all had lunch like me. But on Sabbath, it's all right if you don't eat. Fasting once in a while is very healthy. Okay? It trains the body to utilize the resources and reduce weight and the amount of fat in your body. You will project. I can't see what you're having there. I have to make sure we are together. Can that light up there go off? Yeah, that's better. Makes it better for you to see. Yeah, so this afternoon, I just wanted to briefly review and then open up for a question-answer session. Now go down up to the drugs abused. Yes, that list there. I think it's clearer in the smaller screens. Now, just want you to have another look again at the list of drugs which are abused. And as I said before and in the week, that all of the drugs of abuse, they have this one thing in common, okay? That there is a particular part of the brain they stimulate, a neurotransmitter called dopamine in the limbic lobe. That is the part of the brain that is responsible for feelings, emotions, okay, and pleasure. Anytime you experience any kind of pleasure, there is that part of the brain that processes that pleasure process, the limbic lobe. So all the drugs of abuse, they somehow cause increased amounts of dopamine in that area. There's also a special category of drugs of abuse, which we call the psychedelics or hallucinogens, like LSD, that is lysergic acid diethylamide. They mainly stimulate the frontal part of the brain, the frontal lobe, but they also have an effect on this area, the limbic lobe. The details of the molecular mechanisms by which pleasure and addiction are produced are still being worked out. They are not yet clear, but we can see it and we know this is where we will get our answer. Because the day we know exactly what happens in the brain, we'll have a treatment like a drug you take a day or two, and your alcoholism and your drug addiction is gone. There is still so much that we do not know about the human body, and especially the nervous system, the brain. There is so much we know, but there is also so much we still don't know. And the problem with the brain is there are experiments you cannot do. That limits studies. If we were allowed to remove your brain, cut it into pieces, putting under gadgets and instruments, experiment with it and put it back, we would have gone very far in treating many things. But you can't do that with life, with the human beings. Even with animals, there are things you cannot do. So it still limits us. But suffice it to know where the area, where the answer, where the problem is. Now, once these areas are pleasured, you get that nice feeling, okay, of euphoria, excitement, and relaxation. And that's why people take these drugs. But for us Christians, we know we don't drink, we don't take these drugs of abuse. But I can tell you, we have the best pleasure, we have the best peace of mind and heart. The highest form of pleasure is righteousness, doing good, having Christ. Those who have Christ, they don't need to get this artificial happiness. This is chemical happiness, artificial happiness. What these people are looking for is a happiness which they don't have. It is missing. So they are trying to look for it in these drugs. But the best form of pleasure is just to be with Christ. We were created for Christ. We are for Him. Christ in your life, nothing better. You don't need anything else to make you happy. You will have peace and contentment. So, but meanwhile, we have this challenge, and these people are creating artificial joy, artificial happiness, using this list of compounds. Number one of them is alcohol. Number two is tobacco. Number three is bangi. Number four, miraa. Then heroin, cocaine, LSD, and the inhalants, the ones you see with the street boys with bottles and containers containing glue, and they are sniffing it. There's a long list of compounds which are contained in those inhalants, and even petrol, this one in the petrol station. Yeah, even the one from polystyrene cement, the one you use for repairing walls, the hard substance, and even nail polishers. Yeah, the things you use to remove cutex from the nail. Yeah. So there are many chemicals which are taken as inhalants, and they are some of the worst. They do so much damage, especially to the kidney and to the heart. The next slide. It's not moving. Use the slideshow arrow, the one at the side. Hanging. Oh, okay. That's agreed to move. MPTP. Okay. Ecstasy. Jimson weed. Mushrooms. Tea. There should be a stroke there. Tea stroke coffee. And then number 14 is also another list of therapeutic drugs. There are many drugs that we use in the hospital. They have medical uses, okay? But they also give this pleasurable feeling, okay? So that includes many painkillers. Painkillers like pethidine, morphine, and anything containing codeine. A very common painkiller is beta pain. It contains codeine, and if you people remember well, the Kenya Pharmacy and Poisons Board recently gave a ruling that you cannot buy it over the counter. It's a drug you can only get from when prescribed by a medical professional, and even then, you can't use it for long because codeine is a narcotic, analgesic, and that produces that addiction and dependence, just like the others in the group, like pethidine, morphine, and heroin. Okay, then there are many cough syrups which contain ephedrine and pseudoephedrine. Very good if you have a bad cold, nose flowing, nose blocked. Yeah, anything containing ephedrine. Now your nose clears almost immediately. So you have cold and cough syrups containing these compounds. But unfortunately, they also have this addictive potential. So now their use has to be controlled. Yes, and many others, okay? Sedative hypnotics like Valium, diazepam, phenobarbital, they're commonly used compounds, but they also have this addictive potential. So in medically, we have categorized them as group 4 class of drugs. Drugs you can only use in a controlled way. You use the least effective dose for the shortest time possible. So it's a drug you should not use for more than a week, or at most not more than 2 weeks. And strictly for times when people are really down, broken emotionally, like when you have lost a beloved one and the pain is too much. Somebody can't eat, can't sleep, and they're crying all the time. Then given these sedatives to cool them, quiet them, remove, the anxiety and the stress. But then the proper treatment is counseling, dealing with the cause of pain, rather than treating it symptomatically with drugs with addictive potential. So the use of these drugs brings us problem. When you start with them, it's pleasurable. But as time goes, your body adapts to them. Then you need more to produce the same amount of pleasure as produced originally. And as you continue using, you need more and more. You continue increasing until now the physical damage sets in to different parts of the body. Some of them destroy practically every organ. The alcohol, tobacco are the two that destruction will involve every organ. The reproductive system, the urinary system, the gut, the organs like the liver, the pancreas, the heart, the lungs, and the worst hit is the brain. Even the bones, the blood, the muscles, the joints are not spared. Practically every part of your body is affected by these two compounds. The others, they affect some parts of the brain, but maybe not everywhere. Now, the next slide. Okay. So the positive drugs are the ones I've mentioned, used in the hospital, but they have addictive potential. The negative ones are the ones which are socially acceptable. Okay, like Mira, cigarettes, alcohol is in that group because it is socially acceptable. Even tea and coffee. Many people don't know that tea and coffee has got stimulants. You see, when you are tired and sleepy, what's your preferred drink? It is coffee, it's tea. You take it, become alert and awake. Okay, the sleepiness, tiredness goes, and that's why bus drivers, truck drivers, they like Mira. When you're driving at night, you're feeling tired and sleepy, you chew Mira, you become alert because it stimulates your brain. It stimulates your brain. It wakes you up. The problem with any brain stimulant, including the caffeine in tea and coffee, the caffeine, theophylline, and theobromine, which stimulate your brain in tea and coffee. When you overstimulate the brain, you abuse it because you deplete its resources, you impair the repair mechanisms. You see, at the end of the day, if you've been listening, talking, reasoning, doing something, at the end of the day, the brain has exhausted its energies and its structure. So when you go to sleep, the brain recovers. It restores the lost proteins and connections and joints and structure. So sleep is so vital for your brain recovery. In the days when you are facing exams, believe you me, including me, I used to read past midnight, sometimes up to 3. And then our lantern lamps were taken away. The teacher, the headmaster said, no lantern lamps in the school. But you have not read enough, you want to read. So you go with your lantern lamp to school. When the generator goes off at 10, you hide in a corner with a bed sheet or a blanket with your lantern lamp under the blanket. You read up to midnight. Up to 1. That was terrible, but somehow we got away with it. Okay. So we were robbing ourselves of sleep, of rest, of brain recovery. Believe you me, when you sleep enough during exams, you remember better, you think better, you will even score better, rather than overreading. Sometimes you would read the whole night up to 1, because we were serious. We want to pass exams. Yeah? Yeah? That's how we read and scored A's. But we were destroying ourselves. That's the point. We could have managed without doing that. That's the whole point I'm driving at. That you don't have to do that. We could have managed without doing it. Just read up to 10 and you sleep. You wake up at 5. What you spend 4 hours doing when you are supposed to sleep, you could do it in 1 hour. When you overstimulate the brain, okay, you damage the brain. You get excited that time you are on the drugs, but when you stop, the brain depression sets in. The energy is exhausted, function exhausted, and you go down deeper than you went up. Then what do you need? What happens next? You take another dose of the stimulant. Okay? You take another dose of the stimulant. That's what these socially acceptable drugs and even the others do to you. It is never safe to overstimulate the brain. If at all you do it, it should be for special situations when you take the smallest effective dose for the shortest time possible. And in that case, you are using it for treatment, not for pleasure. Okay? The next. Okay, so we went through that, the factors leading to drug abuse. We've seen that sometimes alcoholism runs in the families. There are people who have a gene. You see, when you take alcohol, the body breaks it down and renders it useless. Only, but it forms some poisonous products. So, like alcohol, ethanol, it is broken down by the enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase. It is turned into acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde is like formaldehyde, formalin, that chemical we use for preserving bodies in the mortuary in the laboratories. Yeah, in the biology school, in the biology lessons in secondary. After you do experiment with animals, you put them in the bottles with a preservative. That's formalin. Okay, it's a very toxic compound. They also put it in the changa, the local brews. That's part of the reason people die when they take those drinks. Okay, it's a very toxic compound. Now, acetaldehyde is a higher form of formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is, so acetaldehyde is then broken down by another enzyme called aldehyde dehydrogenase. It is converted to acetic acid, which is then broken to carbon dioxide and water. Very safe end products. But so there are people who have a genetic abnormality where this second enzyme, acetaldehyde dehydrogenase, is not working properly. So if they take just even a small dose of alcohol, the alcohol is converted to acetaldehyde, and acetaldehyde is very toxic. Okay? You get dizziness, headache, confusion, blurred vision. You get difficulty breathing, the heart is racing. And if it's a high dose, okay, it sends you into total delirium, convulsions, coma, and death. Okay, so there's a section of Indian population with this weak enzyme. If they taste alcohol, wow, they go into coma. So they never touch it. They never touch it. You know, there are some things in your family, your parents may tell you that, you know, in our family, we don't do such things. If you do it, don't blame me. Yeah, some parents will tell their children, you know, in our family, we don't drink alcohol. If you do, you will die in it. And I have examples of families where children did not heed the call. They went into the bottle, my friend. Several of them have died. Okay? Now, those who easily get hooked to this alcohol, some of them also have a weak enzyme that does not break the alcohol, even in the first step. So they take the alcohol, it just, you know, it accumulates, over accumulates. And then there are others who have a hyperactive enzyme. They are the people who can take 2 cases of beer and they are still not drunk. They are still walking. They are able to break it so fast. So these genetic abnormalities, those are the people who they will easily get sick from the alcohol. Imagine taking a case of beer before you are drunk. The toxicity you get to your body, to several organs, is very high. So they will easily get addicted. They will easily die in alcohol. So there are genetic problems that can lead to drug abuse. Then gender. The women are weaker for alcohol. The amount of enzyme they have for breaking alcohol is much less. That's why a woman needs just a little alcohol and she's already drunk. A man can take much more because he is able to break more of the alcohol within a given time. So there's that difference between males and females in the way they handle alcohol and other drugs. Then ethnicity. These genes sometimes, you know, they run in certain ethnic groups. And then, of course, with ethnicity, it is the general culture. You know, there's something, you don't just inherit genes from your parents. You also inherit beliefs, attitudes, and practices. So for people from a certain community, they have a certain belief, attitude, and practice. Okay? So you get people from that ethnic group, their thinking is like this. I don't want to mention it, but in Kenya, you know, we have categorized people into ethnic groups. We say, what is known about Luos? Don't say. What's known about Kambas? Usiseme. Kikuyus? Apana sema. What's known about Kisis? Apart from chopping people with pangas. So we have got these cultural, ethnic, you know, attitudes, okay? Then the environment, of course, if you are in a family where people are drinking and smoking, you know, it's just normal that you will be part of it. If you are in a hospital environment, working in a pharmacy where these drugs are there, it's just the temptation is easier to take them. Yeah? When the drug stock comes of 2,000 tablets of Valium, you just take 5 for yourself. And forge in the records that they have been given to somebody. Or the patient is prescribed, the doctor prescribes, you know, a drug for 2 weeks. You give the patient for 7 days and the rest somebody takes. And you know, those wicked things happen because we are human beings. Okay? So you prescribe for 2 weeks, he gives you drugs for 1 week. In the records, and Andika 2 weeks because the prescription said 2 weeks. And who has taken the difference? The pharmacist. Or whoever was giving the drug. So the environment where you are, okay? Then, of course, stress. Once people are stressed, okay, the temptation is to a quick solution. I'm so stressed, I can't even think straight. Watch at the end and you relax kidogo. Like Proverbs, Proverbs 20, okay? People misread the intention of that verse, okay? That verse, when it says, alcohol is not for kings and for princes, lest they drink and forget judgment and pervert justice for the poor, and the Lord take note of it. Give alcohol instead to the poor, to those who are suffering, that they may forget their poverty. It is not encouraging teaching people to drink. The idea here is it is one thing to use alcohol for pleasure. It is quite another to use it for treatment. You know, when you get poisoned by changa, you know what we use in the hospital to treat changa poisoning? Can you guess what we use? Ethanol, Tasca. We just pour it in your veins. It neutralizes the changa. But we don't give it to you until you carry some home. It's just to dilute the changa and reduce the toxic effects on your eye and on your brain when you are poisoned with methanol. Okay? So it is one thing to use any of these drugs for treatment. It's another to use it for pleasure. It's the same thing Paul is talking about. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 23. Timothy, no longer take only water, but take some little wine for your stomach. Okay? It's not clear to us why they believe that, because all alcohol are bad for the stomach. It causes gastritis, increased acidity. So if you have ulcers, increased acidity, the last thing you should take is alcohol. Maybe the Apostle Paul was talking about the normal healthy wine, okay? Beverage wine, the fresh fruit wine. If you take grapes, na ukate, kama machunga, just make fresh juice, fresh wine. It's the same thing we take at Holy Communion. How many of you have gotten drunk from the Holy Communion? You know, in the early days, Paul writes to the Corinthians, they used to come and, people, they were not using these thimbles which we use here, the small ones. They were using mugs. But we're not going a whole mug of wine. And people are drunk in church. Paul is castigating them. You people, you have no home to drink. You come to abuse the church of God. Okay? So what the Apostle Paul is talking about was this wine believed to have some medical effect for tummy problems. It is not the same thing like somebody who takes wine for pleasure. And Paul is very clear in his mind, the drunkard is not entering the kingdom of God. Paul is very clear, to drink and get drunk is sin. Paul is very clear in his mind. He says, the drunkard will not get in. Even getting drunk is actually sin in itself. He says, be sober. Peter says, be sober. Don't allow yourself to get drunk. Okay? So stressful situations can lead to abuse of these drugs. Physical abuse. Okay? You know, one of the saddest things I read today, oh no, God help us. There are things you don't even want to talk about. No, incest. A father raping his own daughter. Oh God, help us. A son raping his own mother. You know, there are things you don't even want to imagine. That kind of physical abuse. Okay? Just recently in Oyugis town, one of these county workers, okay, a lady, these people who collect cess from if you have potatoes, njugus, ndisis, there's a cess you pay. So some women couldn't raise the cess. They had brought potatoes and they were running away, so the potatoes poured down. This lady was just collecting the potatoes. And some madman was standing not far away, and he was naked. No, madman. These mad people. Every market has a madman. And this lady bending down, picking potatoes, with a dress which is shortish. And you can imagine the rest of the story. This madman raped her. When everybody was around, he was carrying a panga. Nobody could help the poor woman. The poor woman was raped properly. She couldn't take it. She went home. She became sick. She actually died. Other people drown that kind of pain and sorrow in alcohol and drug abuse. Okay? So this unfortunate immorality leads to drug abuse. Availability is the environment, family problems. What I keep preaching, telling people that, listen, today we have a problem. Last week I came from the US. And, in the US now, one of the challenges you get when people go to the US with their wives, the kind of freedom and liberty women are given is destructive. Now, they lose respect for their men, they are rude and arrogant, they insult them, even beat them. But the man should never touch her. You give her a slap, the police is there. So people go there, the stress the women are giving them, they can't take it. And people just separate. You get people in church, yeah? People are looking good, but people are in third, fourth marriages. They marry, they break. They marry, they break. That's the life being led there. Family problems. So people are breaking. When a family breaks, who suffers the most? The children. You assume, you say, they are grown up, they can take care of themselves. Baba yenu can't sumbua mimi like that. After all, I'm working on my money, I can live on my own. Nasinisumbue, lete nyoko nyoko. Aenda kwake. That's the mentality. There's been a shift of paradigm about family and attitude. And unfortunately, it has even crept into the church. But the Bible is clear. The man is the head of the wife. Respect and obey. Family problems, when there's separation, then the children now, the discipline goes. When the father tries to discipline, anakimbia kwa mamake. When the mother, he goes to the mother and say, mzee anakusumbua, wewe kuja ukaa na mimi hapa. Na he goes. And if you are trying to discipline a child and there is somebody supporting him, that child will never be straight. That child will never be a good, the discipline will not work. A father and a mother need to work together to manage to control and discipline the children for their own good. So there's separation, and of course when the children are spoiled, the education is a problem, and they find they even come to the university. But they have a host of social problems. They just can't cope with life somehow. Children from divided families. The host of problems, psychological, social, emotional. They just don't seem to be able to cope with life. God is very right when he says in Malachi 2, why did I create two? I created two that they may be able to produce holy children. Holy in that, the personality and character of a woman is different from that of a man. But when the two are brought together, they are complementary. The softness, gentleness of the woman plus the firmness and discipline of the man put together produce a balanced character in a child. And that's what God is saying. So when you have a single parent family, the children come out imbalanced in their emotions. But that's the reality. And even here in church, it is affecting us. But the truth is the truth. Family is best when the two are together. The children produced have a better chance of being balanced and upright. Please build your families, don't destroy them. Ineffective parenting. We have gone through this over and over, but there are at least three kinds of parenting. There's laissez-faire, freedom, total liberty, where the children can do what they want. There's no control. They eat what they want, they drink, they dress what they want, they walk in, out anytime they want, and they're just there. They're rude and arrogant, and a child's heart is full of evil. It's the rod of discipline that will drive out that evil in the child. Then there are those who are tyrants. Hey, watoto wanatandikwa. Mpaka hata even a child is drinking like this, even a drop of water, on the table. Hey, the slap he will get. Children are terrorized. When the parents come, everybody takes cover. Daddy is coming, take cover. When he is angry with one child, everybody will get a beating. Even if you are innocent. So when you see him quarreling with one child, you just take cover. And mommy, when she is unhappy, really the slap you will get for the smallest of mistakes. Okay? And then, of course, the third one is balanced parenting. Children need to be taught, instructed, but they also need to be disciplined. They need to know you can't joke. If mommy says this, it is this. If daddy says this, it is this. Once there is problem with parenting. Okay, children end up with lack of control and drug abuse. Then, of course, curiosity. People are ignorant, and many people, in fact, majority of the young people, they get into these things at 14, 15 years when they don't know what they are doing. How we need to work on our pathfinders and adventurers. The peak age of starting drug abuse is 14 to 19 years. That stage of class 8 and form 4. That period. That's the peak time. That's the time you need to be closest to your children to prevent this. They are ignorant. They don't know that these things are also interesting and they see others are doing and the peer pressure is there. Yes, curiosity. Then, of course, the low self-esteem. Personality traits, okay? That runs in genes, okay? Believe you me, there are people who are so shy that they can never approach a woman to ask for a friendship, okay? But once they drink kata kidogo, they get all the courage. You can face a woman squarely in the face and say, excuse me, you look nice, I like you. Can we be friends? Next slide. The peer pressure I've talked about, ignorance, curiosity, and of course, the last one is the most important, spiritual poverty, okay? Lack of knowledge of God, not knowing Christ. It's my prayer that our young people, we will so manage to introduce them to Christ that they will be resilient. They will not be people who just easily go along with the crowd. You know, bendera ufuata upepo. They hawana msimamo because in their mind and heart there is no established knowledge and understanding. This is the main thing we should be doing in church, to establish attitudes and beliefs in our children. I know it's not easy. We do our part, we pray, we cry to God, discipline our children, and when we are doing our part, God will help us. God will help us with our children. But I tell you, when young people know Christ that early, during the teenage years, they become stable. They're able to say no to sin when it comes because the Lord is with them. So, nevertheless, all the teaching that you do, sometimes the children still go astray and they end up in these things. There are some signs you may see in them. You know, when they start doing these drugs, they are very secretive. They don't do it when you are seeing. They are very secretive. In fact, eventually, even when you are told, when you have not seen it, it's very hard to believe. You say, my daughter, my son is a very good boy, very good child. Unaniwekelea tu mtoto. My child doesn't have those problems. Even when you are called to school and told your child has been drinking. My son, no, please, wacha kuwekelea mtoto yangu. It's very hard to believe. You discover the child is taking bangi and cocaine, and you don't even have an idea. When they enter those things, it's as if they take an oath of death never to reveal. In fact, for you to get across and eventually convince them to take action, you know, you need a first-hand witness, whoso, or some other evidence like this physical evidence. Nani, hebu leta hiyo mkono hapa. What am I seeing there? What were you doing? Kitu ile ni gwara tu. Alikuwa ana inject heroin. And there are needle scars here. They inject the arm, the elbow, and the cubital fossa. Sometimes they even inject the veins in the neck. Yeah, and even in the leg, the foot. On the dorsum, on the top of your foot, there are veins which are easy to see. They put the needle there. I don't know the kind of things they do. They inject once. They put in a syringe, the cocaine in a syringe. They inject themselves a quarter. Then the next person uses the same needle and syringe and injects himself. And then the next, the syringe and needle goes up around. They are sharing needles and blood with it. They get HIV, they get hepatitis, and all the blood transmissible diseases. They are killing themselves. What is even worse, some of the things they do? When somebody has taken a lot, he is drunk with heroin, and the others don't have money. He takes his blood in a syringe, and they share that blood because the blood has some heroin. Oh, I tell you the things they do. So you will see some of these things change in peer group. He used to be a very good boy in school, loves Pathfinder, singing, Suddenly, those things are not interesting. The Bible he used to love to read and even ask questions. Suddenly not interested in the Bible. And young people who go to church, fellow church members, he avoids them. There is a change in peer group. They become careless in their grooming. A child wakes up, he doesn't even comb his hair. Can even go to school without washing his eyes. Mdomo na pua na macho iko makamasi na all the wax. Anakula hata anasahau kuosha mkono. The nails are long. The nails of the foot. Wanavaa socks, wanasahau kuchange socks. And God help you if he removes the shoes. The stench which comes from there, you'll run away. The shoes have not seen water, have not been changed for a week with all the sweat and the dirt. There are some matatus you drive around and you see a notice written, no removing of shoes. Oh, I tell you. Yeah. They have declined in academic performance, loss of interest in their favorite activities which they used to love, change in eating habits. They tend to eat alone. They wait after everybody in the family has eaten, everybody's at table, food is ready. Nani kuja ukule. I'm coming. There's homework I'm finishing. He just doesn't want to eat with you. He comes later when everybody is gone to eat. Okay? And then when they eat, they have a tendency to overeat. Okay? They eat a lot. Especially those who take bangi. Yeah? We say, Janjaga wero nyoyo. Hey, food is good. They taste it. They're nice. They change in sleeping habits. They're very, very drowsy and sleepy during the day. Everybody is awake, up in class or going about. They look sleepy and tired. Okay? Some of you overwork, so you are sleeping even in church. That's not bangi. But these ones sleep anytime during the week. Okay? And in the night, they want to stay awake. Then bad relationship with the family. The child who was very good and respectful and obedient, suddenly just rude and arrogant. Vile anajibu mamake. One of them, when the mother told him something, he just say, amekunja ngumi, ako ready for a boxing match. The mother would just take off to the kitchen. So they pick a quarrel with everybody in the family. So these are things you may see them. If the child was not like that before, start investigating. You might help him before he goes too far. The next slide. Okay. So those stages, I've gone through them over and over. Stage 1, stage 2, addiction. Stage 3, where now the physical damage and the brain is the worst. The brain damage is the worst. When the brain is damaged, they lose their mind. They become psychotic. Okay. And unfortunately, irreversible stage. Okay. So the scars, the red watery eyes for bang users and amphetamine takers, the sleepiness in the day, tiredness, malaise, isolation, the confusion, drunken get. You ask him even a simple question, he has a problem. It's as if he was sleeping. Yeah? Mtu anakaa hapo, you ask a simple question and he can't give you a straight answer. Ni kama alikuwa analala. Okay? They walk with a drunken gait, daydreaming. And one characteristic thing about these children, these people, what occupies their mind is the drug they're abusing. They talk about it all the time. They talk about where it is bought and sold, how much it is, the people who are selling it, the various tastes and brands. That's what preoccupies them. Okay? They talk about it with so much affection. Now, their clothes, their mouths, their hands, you get those peculiar smells according to the drug. Yawning a lot is especially with heroin users. Okay? Dry, cracked lips with constant licking of lips. That one is especially with alcohol and baggy. Okay? And then goose pimples and sweating is seen with those who use the narcotic and painkillers like heroin and pethidine. I think that's the last, is it? The problems that follow, of course, they are all listed there. The arguments, change in character, rude, arrogant in school to colleagues. They are the ones who lead in the riots and burning of dormitories and schools. Yeah. riots, disturbances, demonstrations. Well, when it is time for demonstration, they are very happy because that is an opportunity to rob. You know, there are times when at the university we would have students rioting. And you know what they do? Bright students. University students are bright students. They are bright people. But during that rioting, the crowd mentality takes over. And you know, cars on Uhuru Highway, which are stuck, they literally rob people. Yeah? When I ingia gari yako, they take your pass and your SIM. They're taking as you are watching. They're ready for a fight. They don't care. You say, are these university students? But they are doing it. They are doing it. Mtu anachukua mawe kubwa, anatwanga ice cream, pak! Anasema, nimegonga, nimegonga. Somebody once did that. Kumbe it was his father's car. Their actual prides, family threats, school, community, you know, they're just bad people. And of course, they're always involved with the police and crime. Okay? And they're the ones who are always disciplined. Those drugs are very expensive. A pinch of cocaine like this, a small pinch, few crystals, 500 shillings. Where does a student get 500 shillings to take cocaine? They will steal your clothes, your radio, your clothes, your shoes, anything you can lay their hands on. Okay? They sell. When things start disappearing in the house, hey, you better buy a camera. Buy a camera, put a camera in your house. So you get to know who is taking them, one of your children. They are in drugs. They are in drugs. And you will ask, you will even beat everybody, nobody will confess. Everybody is innocent. In my house, I used to say, there is somebody in this house called I don't know. This I don't know. One day I catch him and finish him. Things happen, things disappear, and everybody does not know. I don't know. I was not there. I don't know. This Mr. I don't know is a very bad person. So they enter into all this murder, rape. Yeah. You know, when they are hooked, the girls especially for them, when they are hooked to drugs, to get those drugs from the drug peddlers, you know, they exchange drugs for sex. Okay? So you virtually become a prostitute. Ukitaka cocaine, heroin, unaingia huku kwa brothels. They give you the drug, yes, but you pay for it in kind. Okay? And of course, they get caught with the drugs. They end up in jail, imprisonment. Yes, so it is terrible. It is terrible. This thing, thank God at least the government is doing something. So they are still happening, yes, but there is some reduction. It is not left to go to excess. And that's really how much we can do. You can never completely ban alcohol from Kenya. You can never completely ban tobacco. No matter how much you ban it, it will not work. It will only go underground. So better let it be in the surface, but have it controlled. What we have done with the regulation laws. Okay? People above 18 are the only ones allowed to smoke and drink. And when you drink, drinking time is timed. You're not allowed to drink the whole day. It's from 5 to 11 in the night. After that, all bars must be closed. But you know that is the law. What the law says and what people do are very different, including even bars at the mouth, in front of the police station. Yeah? They start drinking early before the time, they drink late, and the police are there. And the chiefs and the sub-chiefs who know who should be controlling these things in the countryside. You know, when these people, the day's collection, there's a portion wameweka for the chief. So kila siku chief ana expect pesa. Because they also drink and smoke. So these are social real life problems. It makes it absolute removal is not possible. The best you can hope to achieve is exercise control so that the damage done is not excessive. So they rarely admit, but your method must be, once you have the evidence, you must be confrontational. Excuse me, John, you have been smoking. Mommy, I don't know, I've never known. Excuse me, open your mouth. Ebu, smell this. Somebody come smell this cloth and he's smelling cigarette. You open his pocket, there are even a few sticks there. You must confront them with the evidence. If you just confront them saying you are, you might falsely accuse them. Or even if you are correctly accusing them. Thieves, a thief is somebody very clever. They are psychologists. They know how to study you. They know how to study you. And people who do these things, they are also psychologists. They know how to study you. They know how to defend themselves. They plan it long before. You know, unless you have the hard evidence, they will never admit it. You've got to have the evidence to confront them with. Then they are forced to admit. And if you can reach that, you have started the treatment. To lead somebody to acknowledge that he has a problem is a half of the treatment. Because from then on, it becomes easier. You can lead them to the correct place where they will get help. And the helps we have around us, we have got specialists in drug abuse. ICPA Kenya, our offices are at the Union, at Maxwell. I'm not there in the office all the time, but at least sometimes on Wednesdays and Fridays, I go to the office just to handle cases. And even if I'm not there and you leave a message at the reception, I'll get and then contact you and see if we can help. Then we have got several psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors who are handling drug abuse. They are all over. They are not difficult to get. If you contact us, we'll give you their addresses, telephone numbers so that you get professional help. Once they acknowledge the problem, then they are directed to the right people who pick them up and take them through a counseling series and start the treatment. And the treatment basically is, if it's severe, we admit and do detoxification for 2 weeks, followed by at least 3 months of counseling. Okay. If they are not very severe, you can treat them as outpatients. You enter once they know and understand the problem and what to do. There are several ways it can be handled. They can stop immediately. They can be directed to programs that help them to stop immediately. Like our 5 days plan to stop smoking. It has worked for so many thousands. Okay? You carry them through a 5-day program. And by the end of the 5 days, they have stopped smoking. And after that, you have a set of counselings to help them stay sober without relapsing back into smoking. The problem with smoking is even out of every 100 you help to stop smoking, after 1 year, 80% of them are back. Okay? Except as they get to know Christ. So in our programs, we always involve pastors and introduce them to Christ, because it changes. Unless, these things come as a result of ignorance and false beliefs. And you need somebody who knows the truth to help untangle and disengage and reverse the thinking and attitudes so that people are able to come out of the drug abusing based on false beliefs and ignorance. So we try help them change their lives. Okay? Their friendship, their companions, where they go, what they do, total life change. That's what works. If you just stop smoking and you don't change your life, before 1 year, 80% are back, okay, into the smoking. And the same thing to bangi and all these other drugs. But the tobacco is the highest. The others have fewer, smaller percentage relapses. If you can find a witness or find the drugs or find, the physical evidences, okay, of the things used, it will help confront the young person and help them out. Sometimes when they are sick, okay, just a normal routine check. Some schools, as you go in, you open your box, you open everything, okay, and they're surprised to discover things. And sometimes just surprise inspection. When a teacher is on duty over the weekend on Saturday mornings, prefects stand everywhere, people open their boxes, and you don't cough, you don't move, just open it and leave it there. The teachers find bangis and cigarettes and beer. Yeah, the students' things. Parents can do that at home, but it's not a very successful thing at home, because the home has many corners where they can hide these things, and they know they can be caught. Then, of course, we have got the specialists, the psychiatrists and psychologists. I work with one of them, Dr. Witi, psychiatric working at Mathare, but in touch with Chiromo Lane and other rehabilitation centers in Westlands, in Lavington. We have the Karen, that one is run by the Catholics. the Karen Rehabilitation Center. Now, the problem with the Catholic programs, you see, the Catholic way of handling drugs is very different from our way of handling drugs. If it's too much, they help you stop. But because of their mentality, their belief that really fundamentally there's really nothing wrong with these things, especially with alcohol, that you can use it in a moderate manner. What is bad is excess. Using it moderately is okay. But there's nobody who was ever born a drunkard. Okay? You start with moderate use, and then after that you go into the full use where you become addicted and hopelessly hooked. So the basic principle is if you are in it, just stop. Just make a decision and stop. We negotiate with them, even stopping programs, how they can gradually pull out. If you are taking 2 packets of cigarettes per day, we first of all aim at reducing it to 1 packet for 1 month. Then the next month, half a packet. Then a quarter packet. Then 3 cigarettes a day. Until eventually only 1 a day, and finally they are able to pull out. So things like those, negotiating with patients, what would be best working out for them. We need to accept, they need to accept them. You take them through the detoxification, then the rehabilitation program with the lifestyle changes. We have a few drugs that help reduce the urge. You see, the vicious circle of drug use, the pleasure, addiction, the physical damage. When you try to stop, even when you discover the truth, you find yourself going back. So sometimes we use drugs, specific drugs, to help them come out. A drug like disulfiram, okay? How it works is it inhibits these enzymes that break down alcohol. So if you take alcohol, that toxic metabolic product, acetaldehyde, accumulates. And it is bad. Oh, when that thing accumulates in your blood, it's like if you have taken formalin. Dizziness, headache, double vision, neck ache, abdominal pains, confusion, restlessness, and they go into delirium, convulsions, coma, and even death. So when you have agreed, but you still find, I've had cases where the patient comes to the rehab, detoxification for 2 weeks, 3 months, even 6 months in the rehab. And he agrees, now I'll never take another bottle of beer. You release him the day you discharge. Before he reaches home, he is already drunk. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak. You give them disulfiram. After they take, they don't dare touch the beer. So use the drugs to help them out. Okay? Nicotine gum helps them to come out. Nicotine gum has nicotine, the addictive substance in tobacco. But it doesn't have the rest of the 4,000 components from the cigarette smoke. So with that, the thirst is able to reduce gradually until now you are able to start reducing the amount of nicotine quantity they are taking until they're able to pull out. Clonidine is used to treat some of the side effects of the withdrawal signs and symptoms of heroin and morphine. Naltrexone reduces desire for alcohol. Methadone, we use it to help them come out of the heroin, okay, and morphine. So we can treat them as outpatient, as inpatient, then followed by a rehabilitation center. Then follow up. We have organizations like Alcoholic Anonymous. Al-Anon this is where the whole family is involved in helping the patients to come out of the addiction and stay sober. Then we have Narcotics Anonymous for those who are hooked to heroin. So we have all these groups, okay? So responsible parenting, education, instruction, leading them to God, to know Christ, and of course, encouraging neighbor to start. And of course, our health reform program of New Start help them to stay out of all these things. And with that, I end my presentation and invite questions. I was encouraging people to write questions if you forget, so that you bring them. So if there are any questions, I can handle them. If there are none, I will assume you got everything or you got nothing. Yes.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the comprehensive presentation. I think just to make a comment, this is something I kind of do for a living. And lest we bury our heads in the sand. I know a lot of times when you talk about drugs and substance abuse in church, like SDA, we imagine that it's out there and it's not among us. But unfortunately, from where I sit, working in a university setting, I'll tell you 90% or even more are either drinking or using some of these substances. And unfortunately, some of them are members of our church. So let's not bury our heads in the sand. And two, like you had mentioned, parenting style really does play a big role in this. For instance, if you find out that your child is using a certain substance and you are, let's say you're kind of parent, you never punish this child, you never did anything, where are you going to get the voice to tell them to stop? So we've seen parents frustrated. And oftentimes, parents even call us and ask us to talk to their children without their knowledge. Because I feel like some parents are very hands off. They don't even know how to confront their own children. So this is something that has to be inculcated in your parenting style. So even as you parent, it's important for us to have an authoritative voice, such that when you tell your child, don't do this, they actually listen. Because there are parents who get frustrated at some point because of that. I wanted to also get to hear from your side, what's the science behind addiction? How does it happen to the point that now it becomes a disease? You know, like alcoholism gets to a point where it becomes a disease and it has to be treated as a medical issue. And something else that I also think we need to be aware of is that rehabilitation is very expensive.
Yeah.
Very, very expensive. So prevention is better than cure. You'll spend more than 200,000 shillings a month in rehabilitating a child. So it's also important to note that if you've not started, do not even try. Because a lot of these things you will get hooked. Remember, drugs give the body pleasure, and the body loves pleasure. So it will demand for more. So it will get to a point where you'll not have control over it. And then I think the other biggest challenge, lastly, that we're experiencing, especially with marijuana, is the main excuse they give is, oh, it's medicinal, or it's been legalized in some states in the West. I mean, so if it's been legalized, and it's something that in Kenya, it's a challenge you're also experiencing in Kenya. I remember one of these political aspirants saying one of the main things they will do when they become the president, they're going to legalize marijuana. And you're thinking, they're trying to help young people who are struggling with it, and yet someone who is a voice of authority up there is saying that they want to legalize it. And the role of leadership is very key in as far as this is concerned. So those are some of the challenges you're facing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's very true. But the basic science behind addiction, I told you there are some details we don't know, but we know enough at least to understand what is going on. It is something like operant conditioning. It's the way our bodies are made. When you stimulate the brain, when you overstimulate it, the way the body works is supposed to be stimulated momentarily, pop, and then you stop. But if you continue, okay, you create adaptive changes. The body adapts. The body is trying to control this poison you are putting in the body. Okay, so the body adapts to absorb the abuse. Now, that adaptive process, when finally you stop, is reversed. And the result of reversal of adaptive process is withdrawal signs and symptoms. Okay. It is like what one of the early psychologists in the 20th century called Sigmund Freud. Okay. What he did with the animals, with dogs specifically, He would let them stay very hungry. Then when it is time to give them food, he rings a bell. Bling, bling, bling. And then the food appears. So he did that over time. It reached a stage where he would ring the bell, and even if the food does not come, the dogs will literally salivate, the saliva drops down. What did he do? It is called conditioning. The bell is associated with food. The moment you hear the bell, you know the food is there. You just start salivating. And other animals, what we have done with them, put them in a cage, let them starve, and let them run around randomly. As they run around randomly, you put a lever in the cage where if they brush against that lever, the food drops. Then the animals are clever. Soon they discover that if you touch that thing, the food drops. So they will just keep touching, the food drops. Keep touching. And so you reach a stage where even if you don't put the food, okay, they will just keep doing it automatically without thinking. Okay? It's that kind of conditional learning. This is what these drugs do to us. And it is a mechanism that was put in us by God. Okay? It's like this Bendera of Wataupepo philosophy, where you just do follow the crowd. When there was no sin, okay, it was all right to follow what other people are doing. But unfortunately, after sin, you just can't follow people blindly because the devil is around and some people have evil purposes. If you just blindly follow people, you end up in trouble. Okay? So it is a learning, adaptive learning mechanism in the brain that takes place when you abuse the drugs. And all this adaptive learning is this through this neurotransmitter, dopamine, which is released and it keeps touching certain areas until you are used to it. And it is actually not just even drugs. Operant conditioning, it's our way of learning. You see, like if you are used to driving from work and going a certain route and then going home, there is a time you want to go to Ruiru, not to go home. You might find you have automatically taken a turn, you are coming home and oh no, I was supposed to go to Ruiru, you drive back. What happened? Conditioning. Okay. The politicians who are adding fuel to the fire. It's true, South Africa and other countries have legalized banking. Several states in the US have legalized banking. But you see, what you need to understand is what's happening behind the scenes. Remember, we so effectively fought against the tobacco industry and destroyed it. Now we are fighting against alcohol industry. We don't know how much we'll succeed. So these businessmen lost. And these people make money, big money. So there's a secretive move to allow things like banking because it's a way of making money. It will replace what they lost in tobacco and other things. So there's something, a force behind it all. You look at the people who are promoting. Somebody like Wajakoya, the presidential candidate. What kind of person is he? He is a Rasta. A criminal, a crook like that, the one who wants to be our president. His thinking and mentality is not straight. So if you blindly follow him, I was telling somebody, we were discussing lunchtime, and I was telling him, you just wait. He will not get more than 500 votes in the whole country. Even his own Rasta people will not vote for him. Yeah. Yes. So these are things to pray. These are things to pray over. There is an evil force. Remember, we are living in the last generation. Man is confused, disoriented, deluded. People are deluded. You know, a deluded person is a person who has lost his reasoning. Yeah? A story goes that an Arab and a Jew were arguing. Okay? They were arguing about a crowbird. You know the crowbird, the black bird with the white neck. Yeah? The Arab said, hey, you see, that thing there is a zebra. And the Jew said, what do you mean? That is a bird. He said, no, it's a zebra. He said, it's a bird. It's a zebra. It's a bird. You know. So what is a zebra? He said, a zebra has many stripes. black and white, and it has 4 legs, it has big ears, and it looks like a donkey. And they said, yes, that is true about a zebra looks, but this one has a stripe, but it's just a special zebra. Then the Jew said, it is a bird, and I'll prove to you it is a bird. He said, can you prove it is a bird? What do birds do? Birds have 2 legs and they fly. So he said, this one, no, this one is a zebra. Try to make it fly. So they chased away the crow. Of course, the crow was running on 2 legs and it flew. So he proved it is a bird. But you know what the Arab said? Oh no, these days even zebras fly. Yani, you can't reason with people. There's a reasoning where you can't reason with them. They're deluded, okay? Delusional thinking.
Prof,
Okay.
I have a question.
So we live in a period when there's a lot of delusion. We talk about alcohol now. I have colleagues who know all this information, but they drink like fish. And when you discuss with them, you discover one thing. They know, but they don't believe what they know. So now you argue round and round, you end nowhere. You just say, oh God, please just help them. Reasoning cannot get them anywhere. They are deluded.
A question.
Yes.
Question.
Yes.
Okay. The question is,
Yes.
uh,
I'm
thank
not
you.
seeing the question. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. Now, my question is, if somebody has used the marijuana
Yes.
for a long period of time, to the extent that they have lost their mind,
brain. Yes.
I guess, going by your presentation, of course, there is the emotional damage because this person do not relate with people properly. But over time, I would imagine there is also the physical damage.
Yes.
My question is, now, at what point would that person exceed the redeemable line?
Now, people react to these things differently. There are people who even a little is enough to completely destroy them. There are others who it needs a lot to completely destroy them. I know people who have been smoking bangi all their life, but somehow they have some control. They smoke just kidogo. Okay? One of my relatives, he had this long pipe where when you put bangi on the other end and they put on the fire, then it goes a small pot. The small pot, there's a pipe which goes through a bowl with water, and then the bowl water, this goes through a filter, and finally the smoke which comes to his mouth has passed through water and some filter. So early in the morning or in the evening, you will hear, we call it nyasore. He was very normal, but he was taking bangi. Until one day the wife said, I've had enough. She took the pot, broke it, and threw those things in the toilet. He took his panga and threatened death, but he didn't do anything. But the majority of those who take bangi, okay, after some time, they develop the apathy syndrome, where they just lose self-care. Okay? By that time, the damage in the brain is already there. It's still reversible, but eventually they break down emotionally. And it is unpredictable how many years. It's about 3 years, basically. But some people, somehow, they are able to go much longer, even all their life, taking kidogo kidogo of the banki. Okay? So that's the miracle of God, that there are people who can take these things, and somehow they're just there. For example, I know people who have been taking alcohol, who took alcohol all their life, and they live up to 105 years. 105 years by taking alcohol. Okay? Drinking every day. But if you look at their drinking carefully, you will discover they were very moderate drinkers. Somebody who takes a glass or two. But people who get drunk every day, they don't live long. They don't live long. So for you to drink and still live that like if it is normal, there must be a good amount of control. That's why when you do scientific studies, you must take several factors into control to get into consideration for you to get the real truth, the real picture. Because there are people who genetically, just like I told you, there are people who can take a whole case of beer. And they're all right, they're still working. Don't do it because somebody is doing it. Constitutionally, genetically, we are all different. We respond differently. But there is there is an area where majority fall. So we say that the distribution of biological characteristics, including libido, including any kind of biological characteristic, the distribution in society is normal. Okay, it takes the shape of the normal distribution curve, the bell-shaped curve. About 12.5% are on this extreme, 12.5% is on the other extreme. The majority, 75%, are in the middle. Okay, yeah. Like, for example, even about sex, you get people, 12.5% of the population. Yeah. People who are very normal, but they have low libido. Okay. Somebody reaches 40 years, he has never had a girlfriend. He's not even thinking about marriage. But otherwise, he's very normal. And when you give him a woman, he will get children. But ako tu, hata unauliza, sasa wewe, aren't you marrying? He's just there. Nothing is wrong with him. Okay. But the majority, 75%, yeah, they are normal. It is there, it is not there, they are, they respond normally. Then there is another 12.5% who are extreme. Okay? I had a neighbor, I frequently tell this story, who couldn't keep a wife because nobody could stand the trauma. This is somebody who in the evening could have 25 rounds of sex with the wife. And in the morning, another 24. In the daytime, if he gets you somewhere around the bedroom, another 17. And no woman could remain there. Now, that's abnormal. Okay? That's too much. That's abnormal. Okay? So the majority are in a certain region. Okay, 75%. But there are a few people at the one extreme, another one at another extreme. The same thing with the drugs. Okay? There are people who the drugs that don't affect them. There are others who, even a little, it will be too much for them. But the majority are there in the middle. Okay? They take it and, the response is normal.
Okay, I had a question.
Yes.
Thank you for all that. One of the slides was showing among the types of those drugs, there was something to do with mushrooms.
With?
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms, yes.
Then
yes.
I was so scared because I eat mushrooms.
You love mushrooms. I also love them.
So which kind of these mushrooms?
There is a specific type. Amanita phalloides, botanical name. It's also called Chinese mushroom. They have a lot of phencyclidine. That's this chemical called phencyclidine. Yeah, and in fact, it's a mushroom. It's poisonous mushroom. If you accidentally tuna it, mushrooms just grow anywhere along the fence. If you don't know and you pick the wrong type, if you take just a few of those mushrooms, people in that family, you lose them, will die. Because that drug is poisonous. So it's a specific kind of mushroom, not all. The normal one we eat is very good. I love mushrooms.
Okay, my question is about probiotics.
Proper?
Probiotics. There's some probiotics, a probiotic that is fermented.
Oh, okay, like this one's used for treating diarrhea.
Like people take kombucha.
Okay.
Heard of kombucha?
Eh?
You've heard of kombucha?
I'm not familiar
Okay,
with that.
there are probiotics that are fermented.
Yes.
And they help to cure things like ulcers and many other diseases. So probiotics, are they drugs? Because I have seen somebody taking a probiotic and getting drunk.
Getting drunk.
Yes.
Well,
Or
and that
tipsy.
one, yes. Yeah, that one I'm not very sure of what you are talking about, because what I know as probiotics are preparations of certain organisms, either yeast or certain bacteria. Like there's one we use for treating diarrhea. What it does when you take it is a bag of yeast, of bacteria. It's a bag of bacteria, but good bacteria. You know, all over our body there is bacteria. In your mouth, in your throat, even stomach, intestine. We are all bacteria on your skin. They're everywhere, in the air, in the water. So there is good bacteria, there is bad bacteria. So these are good bacteria. You take a bag of it. It literally it fights the disease causing bacteria, kills them, okay, and the diarrhea cures. That's how it works. So it's using organisms to fight organisms, and it works in many cases. So this one, which is used for ulcers, I don't know, because okay, we have a bacteria, Campylobacter jejuni or pylori, H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori, which causes inflammation of stomach and duodenal walls. And once there is inflammation, when you eat, the acidity breaks the walls and you get ulcers. So that these days, when you treat people with ulcers, you not only give them antacids and reduce the amount of acid they are producing, you also give them antibiotics to kill this bacteria that predispose to ulcers. So if that's what they're doing, I don't know. If they have discovered an organism that helps to kill this H. pylori bacteria. But it has not come to my knowledge. But otherwise, the principle of probiotics work. So, you know, a bag of bacteria, is that medicine or... Eh? Maybe somebody are mixing some funny things with it. But otherwise, it's just organism. It's not supposed to have any psychological effects.
Thank you, Doc. One question I had has already been answered about mushrooms.
Yes.
So, from your experience, I know, like most drugs we take, there's alcohol, right?
Yeah, many. Not
Many.
most.
So,
Not most.
yeah, many. So, for bangi,
Yes.
are there medicinal value in using bangi? Then number two, I have in some countries I have seen after every meal people take a glass of wine
Of wine.
for medicine, for the stomach, right?
They say for the stomach.
For the stomach. From your experience, does it add value health-wise?
Not experience, but scientific reports. Because I've never drunk any. I know the science of it. Because it's been studied over and over and reported by reputable people. And you know, you look at the studies, you see this one is genuine. Okay. That's the same excuse they used to take beer. That I'm taking it for appetite. Appetite is something normal. You don't need chemicals to produce appetite. If you lose appetite, then you are sick. Treat the cause of loss of appetite. Don't try to treat the appetite without treating the cause. Don't just deal with symptoms. Deal with the root cause of the disease. Okay? So if some disease is causing you to lose appetite, deal with it. Deal with the disease. Don't treat the symptoms. So taking wine or beer to improve appetite, the truth is that is not true. When you just have loss of appetite every day, forever, all your life. The real reason people take beer is the pleasurable effect. The appetite is just an excuse. Okay? So an idea that wine cures the stomach, there's nothing like that. Not that we know scientifically. Okay? If anything, alcoholic wine makes it worse. It creates acidity. Alcohol increases acidity and therefore makes ulcers worse. Okay? So those are people who are just lucky that they have not developed ulcers. Okay, we know the French culture. They are so used to wine in French culture. Yeah? You go to church, even there people just take wine. Okay? It's a culture. Just like I said, ethnicity. There is a belief, an attitude, and a practice you find in every community. And, you know, it's just like that. That's the way life is, people are. But it is not because it is scientific, and it's not because it is innocent. There are problems with it. I've forgotten the other question. That was about wine. Oh, bangi, whether it has medicinal value. Now, you know what? Currently, it is the fight against miraa. You know, what we know scientifically is miraa is addictive substance with very destructive health consequences. But some people have done some funny studies and declared that miraa is harmless. The issue, you know, where money is involved and where politics involved, no politics, politicians, they look for votes. So they do what pleases you. They want your votes. That's why they do what pleases the crowd to get the votes. Okay? Especially when you're meeting stiff opposition. You'll do anything silly to get votes. So where politics and money are involved, there is corruption. You lose sight of science. All the scientific studies are there. So what are these new studies you are coming up with? Statistics can sometimes be manipulated to reflect what you want. And that's why we have had a problems in scientific circles for ages. Okay? Because remember, with scientific studies, it's not just the facts which are at the table. Okay? There are other issues. There are money issues. There are promotional career issues. You know, things like evolution. Why are we still talking and teaching evolution at this age when we have all the scientific evidence to prove creation? It is because if you are doing research on those bones of monkeys, you know, that you have discovered Sahelanthropus, so your name goes all over the world and you feel proud. Oh, I've made a discovery. Then you get a promotion. Senior lecturer, you become a professor, your salary goes up. So there are all those monetary things, values, you know, advantages involved with the research and, you know, these reports. So people can easily do them. Did you know that the bones which were used to prove evolution initially at the outset of the 19th century, to force the forceful teaching, mandatory teaching of evolution in schools in America and the West, they were falsified bones. They took pig bones and pretended that, you know, fixed them somehow to make them look like human beings. Yeah, the pitman, for example. So with scientific studies, you know, education does not make people saints. Education only makes you an educated sinner. A professor, yes, but a sinful professor. Okay? That's where the problem is. Education alone does not make you a saint. It is Christ who makes you a saint. So you can be very learned, but if you don't know Christ, you're just an educated sinner. Okay? The fear of God is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise instruction and wisdom. Proverbs 1 verse 7. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Proverbs 9. Okay? So we have all these challenges with the sciences. So we have that problem with miraa. What happened with miraa is some extracts, some compounds from the miraa, if you ground it to solution and separate the solution into chemical components. There are some components there that you might find some medicinal values. Now, they have done that with bangi. The active ingredient of bangi is tetrahydrocannabinol. There are up to 60 types of cannabinoids in the bangi leaf. So if you separate those chemical components, some of them may have medicinal values, like tetrahydrocannabinol itself, okay, has got some appetite stimulating properties. It has got some weight gain properties. It has got some pain killing properties. Okay? And that's the excuse they're using for legalizing bangi. That this thing, it is beneficial, it is medicinal. But when you smoke bangi, are you smoking it because of pain? Are you smoking it because you have lost appetite? You want to stimulate appetite? Go and take 3 rolls of bangi. They are taking it for pleasure. Just like I've said before, that please, even if there was some medicinal value in bangi, that is no reason to take it for pleasure. It is one thing to take a drug for pleasure. It is another to take it for medicine. It's the same thing I keep saying about morphine, these painkillers, narcotics. We use the strongest painkillers, but they have addictive properties. So when you use them, you have to be careful. The smallest effective dose for the shortest time possible, and never give it for pleasure. You don't just give it freely. There are patients who, when after surgery, you give them pethidine, it kills the pain. And, they are okay when you're giving pethidine, but pethidine is giving them some pleasure. So now they know it. So after 2-3 days, when the pain is gone down, you want to stop it. They will keep complaining of bad pain. And when you give them paracetamol, they say, doctor, that one can't help me. Ile shindano. Because it gives them pleasure. Ile shindano ndio inanisaidia. Hata ukidunga aspirin, they will not get relieved. Hata ukiweka huko diclofenac, it won't help them. Until you give pethidine. Why? Ile pleasure. Okay. So it is one thing to use anything for treatment. It is another to use it for pleasure. So that's the difference. Using something for dawa, using it for pleasure. Don't take any of these substances for pleasure. If at all you ever use, it should be strictly for medicinal purposes, in which case it is controlled. Okay. Yes, young man.
We are moving towards the close. Any other hand?
Drugs that are manufactured in laboratories.
Yes.
I was asking if there were any drugs.
Oh, most of those drugs are made in laboratory. Heroin is a derivative of morphine. Codeine is a derivative of morphine. MPTP, okay? Trimethyl methamphetamine, MPTP. Those are synthetic compounds. Ecstasy is a synthetic compound. Okay? Gamma hexybutyrate, GHB, the one they commonly put in the sodas when you're in the bus going to Kisii. You buy a soda and after that you lose your consciousness. When you wake up, you are in Migori and you are going to Keroka. And your bag and your money and pass and phone are all gone. They put it. They use injections to inject in the soda, especially this one in the soft packages. They know how sodas you can open, put something and put it back. When they open it for you, Fanta. The next thing you remember is you waking up in the hospital. You are given Rohypnol or you are given GHB. Yeah? We will live in a crooked world. You teach these people chemistry. See what they do with it. A Form 4 leaver university student. They know all the chemistry. They just use it to make GHB and Rohypnol and use it to rob people. You heard how some university students in Thika, they just rented a kiosk next to a bank. They dug a tunnel until it reached the bank. And even as they were digging, in the night they would remove the soil. They dig the soil, put kidogo. The pickup comes to pick it at night. And people just think, okay, there's nothing here. It's just a kiosk, but they are living in it. They're going down a tunnel, and they took the money, and they got away with it. I think eventually they got caught up. Our police are very good when they mean to do it. When they don't mean to do it, they turn the head the other way as a crime is being committed. But when they really want to catch you, our CID and police are world class. They will get you. Yeah? So when you see the police are not catching criminals, it's because some powerful person is behind it, telling them, okay, don't catch them. Just pretend to catch them, but don't catch them. Okay. Yeah, so many of them are made in the laboratory by learned people. Learned, but stupid. Mandrax is manufactured in the lab. Yes. I think I've finished all the questions.
Any other question before we close?
We can close.
They are done.
You can sing a song and pray. Lord, I want to be a Christian in my heart.
Number 319.
Lord, I want to be a Christian in my heart. In my heart, Lord, I want to be a Christian in my heart. In my heart, in my heart, Lord, I want to be a Christian in my heart. Lord, I want to be more loving in my heart. In my heart, Lord, I want to be more loving in my heart. In my heart, in my heart, Lord, I want to be more loving in my heart. Lord, I want to be more holy in my heart. In my heart, Lord, I want to be more holy in my heart. In my heart, in my heart, Lord, I want to be more holy in my heart. Lord, I want to be like Jesus in my heart. In my heart, Lord, I want to be like Jesus in my heart. In my heart, in my heart, Lord, I want to be like Jesus in my heart. Shall we pray? Loving and gracious Father, we praise you and bless your name for your everlasting goodness and mercies and graces towards us. Lord, we've spent the day talking your word and talking about drugs of abuse. Father, we continue to pray for our young people. We will continue to pray for the church, for your work in these last days. Awaken us, Father, from our slumber. We pray for mercies and grace for the families affected. We pray for this nation, that, Father, you may give us leaders who are responsible enough to lead us in the right direction. Forgive us, Father, where we have gone wrong, and accept us as your children. Make us your children this day, Father, for we just thank you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.